and weft and warp. These words are cool. Sorry, I gotta like check my warp real quick. It's fun. Weaving's a very old art form and uses loom, yarn, thread, all kinds of other materials. People are weaving all kinds of strange things together now and making these very intricate and unique pieces using plastics, caution tape, feathers, ribbons, all kinds of stuff. They're like pipe cleaners. People are going around and pulling trash off of the street and shredding it up and putting it in their weaving. It's evolving very quickly, and I think that is in part due to these tools are becoming more accessible and affordable to people. Also, weaving guilds, thanks to COVID, are even more popular than before. People want to be together, they want to learn the skill. Yeah. So here's some weaving. The one on the right is from Les Gobelins Tapestry Workshop in France. They have a video on the internet that shows you how they make tapestries in the old ways. It's fascinating. I really suggest going to YouTube and finding this video. It involves like mirrors and lights and drawings and one person sitting on this side and one person sitting on the other side, and they're like quickly like throwing these spools? Bobbins, thank you. These bobbins back and forth and making these pictures, and it'll take them up to maybe like 5-6 years to do some of these weavings. Alternatively, you can also have a computerized loom to make tapestries that way. But knowing what I know about machine embroidery, I imagine it's just as complicated to program a computerized loom as it is to just work with a normal loom. Here are some more weavings I admire. The person on the right, Erin M. Riley, she's a very popular weaver currently in the fine arts world. She's pulling from a lot of these like cursed internet imageries, these pop cultures, and putting them together in like a bizarre collage way that reminds me of the 1990s, like MySpace. And then she's also got a bunch that involve cats that of course I love. Very cool artist, really making a name, American artist, making a name for weaving, contemporary weaving. And then on the left side, I have an example of something that has been done in computerized loom by artist Grayson Perry, who is now Sir Grayson Perry, who was recently knighted by the king. This one is one in a series of depicting just a normal working class dude from birth all the way to death, like, you know, all like going to school, getting picked on, working at the grocery store, getting married, getting divorced. This kind of like epic history of just normal people I find really fascinating in the art world, because so often it's just the elevated hero that you see. You don't really get to see the person who made the shoes or the person who bagged the groceries. So I think this kind of working class imagery is really having its day right now in the art world. And then one more for you. This is a local New Orleans weaver. He's incorporating imported silks and hand-woven fabrics and stitching. His name is Scott Anderson. His work is breathtaking. I mean, it's like watching a cloud or like a little bit of stream, like some water move. It's stunning to see in person. He shows at a lot of galleries in New Orleans. You can easily find him. And that leads me to basket making, which is a fiber art. It's weaving, right? This is a basket by Natalia Maybach, a German artist, I believe. And the title of this is "The Winds Kept Roaring Through the Night." Just pretty wild, crazy basket, like no use for it whatsoever. But maybe that is the thing that makes it notable or wanting to be looked at. It's a wild one. And then we have surface design. That's how we're getting our stuff on our fabrics. So fabric is going to be made, it's going to be bought, or it's going to be modified. There's a whole lot of different ways we can change our fabrics. There's natural and synthetic dyeing, there's printing, there's painting, airbrushing, glues and waxes, stenciling, photo transfer, tie-dye, shibori, on and on and on. All the academics are like, what is it? It's like, it's fabric that has been manipulated with dye. That's what it is. Once we have our textile, that leads us into quilting, which is my other nerdy art form that I love so much. Any quilters in the house? Yeah! All right. So you know all about this. Quilting is the process of joining at least 3 layers of fabric together, either by hand or with a sewing machine or with a long arm sewing machine. The back of the quilt is called the backing. The stuff in the middle is called the stuffing, and the front part is called it's such a good word. Flimsy. The vocabulary, I think, is what I really love the most. The flimsy. It's so delightful. And then it's binded together, and then it's a quilt. There's a lot of different types of quilting. There's applique, where you're applying fabric on top of another fabric. There's piercing, which connects many pieces to form squares, rows, and then blocks. There's paper piercing, which follows a pattern with fabric shapes and stitch orders. It's kind of like a sewing origami of sorts. And then there's mola, or it's a reverse applique, so that's when you're sewing 3 or more different fabrics together and then cutting into it to reveal the patterns of the fabric underneath. It's a really fun technique. I think a lot of you would enjoy playing with it if you haven't already. And then there's free motion quilting, which is very similar to free motion embroidery, when you lower the feed dogs and you can draw all over your quilt however you want, or you could use one of the thousands of traditional quilting motifs that quilters spend an awful lot of time perfecting, like the feather. That feather. Quilting's having a really big moment in the art world right now because of Bissa Butler. Have you seen her work? It's so cool. I would love to see it in person and really get up close and to see exactly how she is manipulating and using these textiles. She just had a big show in Chicago. But she uses a lot of working class, normal people imagery, especially from the Black community, to be shown in a positive light, projecting how Black people want to be seen in the face of constant media barrage of negative images. And she works in a variety of materials, and these pieces are incredibly large and have a really imposing, powerful subjects in the center of them. And they're just incredible.
So are the eyes embroidered or are they pieced?
I think they're pieced.
Are they really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I haven't. This is the other really challenging thing about fiber arts is unless you're looking at it in person, it's hard to tell how that thing has been made.
Yeah, the eyes are incredible.
The closest place you might be able to see is at Crystal Bridges, because that's all about to
At Crystal Bridges? I would love to go there one day. I hear they have amazing collection.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Some other famous quilters. This is Faith Ringgold. She was one of the original art quilters that got accepted into the fine arts world. I just love this piece, the sunflowers, the Van Gogh, the banquet, the happiness of it all. And then the one on the right, or this one, the one on the left, is something that I got to see recently at the Craft Museum in Los Angeles. Can you guess what this is made out of?
It looks like the plastic.
It's 16 millimeter film.
Oh.
Artists found a bunch of boxes of this film that was being thrown out, and she watched all of the films and what the films were about, where they were kind of like these art house experimental documentaries of women weaving and working on looms and doing needle crafts and all of these things. And so she took all of these films and then very carefully sewn them together into traditional quilt motifs. Yeah, they're really fantastic to see in person. They kind of just like glow. And then wearables are back. If you remember the 60s, it's back again. or through Bauhaus. I don't think anybody's here from Bauhaus era, but the wearables started in the Bauhaus era of the late 20s, 30s, when this kind of art avant-garde, Dadaism was really making things weird, specifically performing arts, ballet, and happenings, like art parties. And then now it's coming back, and this line between is it art, is it fashion, it's completely disappeared, because now we're having complete fashion shows show up in museums, where you can see an entire collection of some famous designer. And then you're seeing more and more artists migrate into the fashion world to step up and to be, you know, like Croc by Jane Tardo. That's not, it's possible. You know, a lot of the artists are having these, what's the word? Oh, whatever. A lot of artists are also entering into the fashion world and bringing their designs and their ideas into a very fashionable and marketable way. In just purely the art world, Nick Cave, these are his sound suits. They were recently in Montgomery, Alabama. We also have a couple now in New Orleans Museum of Art in City Park.
I think he showed at the Telfair Museum in Savannah, didn't he? I think I saw something like that.
Cave.
Yeah.
I think he was based in Savannah for a while.
Yeah, I thought I saw him.
Nick Cave is about as hot an artist in terms of exhibition desired by museums as is living in America right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
see that. I did
People
see it.
love seeing the line between art and fashion. It's really
I think
fun
it's
to
cool.
see how these things are made, and it's something about the wearable and your body and that connection. There's something there that's really intriguing. Here's a few more. The influence in COVID in the fiber arts world, in craft and art, that influence is going to cause huge ripples probably for the rest of our life. Either from concepts, from themes, from new techniques that artists are learning. I really love this mask by Jurari. Jurari is an Icelandic textile artist. She makes a lot of really bizarre masks and wearables, and then COVID happened and now everything she makes has tongues and mouths on them. Like, remember when like the mask first came off and you saw people's faces again? And it was just like, I don't know, I just really respond to this piece just because it felt like suddenly there's just a lot of mouths in my life after not seeing mouths for 2 years. And then also collaborative work is huge in the fiber arts world, and these kind of art fashion houses, and then these photo shoots that are just for fun, that are truly bizarre and surreal. We're thinking about the COVID influence here and going back to like the Black Plague, when fashion started getting truly bizarre around that time period as well. And then the avant-garde thing in the late 1800s, or the early avant-garde in the early 1900s. So a lot of these collaborative works are crediting everybody involved, which is very special and modern, because in the past maybe you would just have one name associated with a creation like this. These days these collaborative groups are giving everybody credit where it's due, and I really like that. Here's another one that I really enjoy. This is Charles Ladre's work. For more than 30 years, this New York-based sculptor has been meticulously sewing, casting this handmade world in miniature. And it's like direct opposition of like this obsession with large things in the art world. Charles is making these really tiny, small things. He's also really exploring this idea of commercialization and these mass productions and the amount of labor that goes into making a jacket that you can buy for $20. He's making a jacket, it takes him 6 months to sew this tiny little thing by hand, you know. It's really going up in that face of, I don't care how long it takes, I'm making it. Which I think a lot of you feel. Me too. I don't care how long it takes or how much it costs, I'm doing it. And I mean, the imagery is bizarre. It's like detached from reality, and the attention to detail, it's really unsettling when I find his work. Every now and then he'll stage something in a city, maybe in LA or New York, probably other places too, where they're having a fashion event. He'll set up all of his tiny little racks outside. And it's just, to me, it's the most delightful, absurd thing to see all these well-dressed people walking past tiny clothes that they can't have. I think his work's fantastic. It also reminds me of my mom, who would sew the little dresses and outfits for the bears and the mice. Leading more back to like what is gender and class access. This is a cool technique too that I've played with a little bit, but it's really over my head. This is fabric manipulation, which is used to achieve all sorts of shapes and textures in fabric. There's a bunch of different patterns, and they each have a combination, not just one way, but a combination of pleating, folding, layering, gathering, tapping, pressing, applique, trapping onto, all these incredible words to make these such precise, organic yet geometric shapes. I would really love to see more art that is playing with fabric manipulation. It's something I feel like I've seen like almost nothing of. Like I've seen like paper crafters do it, but I haven't seen it in fabric. And if you're thinking that could be me, this is the book you need. I have this book, and I was like, whoa, I might need to wait till I'm retired to learn how to do this. But I do think it would be really interesting to learn this. And now we're in self-sculpture, which is essentially a sculpture, a 3D object that you can walk around and look at from all sides, that is made out of soft material like fibers or textiles or something else. Klaus Oldenburg, the person all the way on the right, he's considered to be the grandfather of sorts of self-sculpture. He's known these days for his very large-scale monumental sculptures of mundane objects like safety pins and hair dryers. You've probably seen one of these things out. He's passed on recently. But before he did all of that stuff, he was an experimental fiber artist and really activated the imagination of a lot of artists in the 60s of using these new materials or these fiber materials and really pushing forward the fiber arts world. I have a few other examples here of artists that have been playing in this art form. I'm attracted to like really absurdly funny kind of surreal imagery. I'm sorry if these examples are weird. Here's a couple more. These are crochet objects. Crochet's having a moment right now too, but thanks to social media, a lot of people are learning how to crochet on places like TikTok. And then they're taking their skills and they're getting shows, and they're just self-promoting themselves and making a lot of money. They don't even need the gallery. They don't need representation anymore. They just need social media, which is kind of cool. It's like the barrier between these worlds are just falling away really quickly. You can really take it into your own hands. I'm almost at the end, but I want to tell you about this strange one called flocking. Flocking is a fiber arts. It's the application of millions of tiny fibers onto an adhesive-coated surface to create a velvet-like texture. So when you put that on your Christmas tree, you're making a fiber art. Flocking's had a bit of a moment a couple of years ago in the fiber arts world. A lot of sculptors were finding these strange and unusual objects, or they were 3D printing things and flocking them. It's falling a little bit out of fashion these days because it's a very environmentally unfriendly process. But it does look cool.
It does.
Yeah. And if the defining or the most noticeable feature of the piece is at least 50% fiber or fiber related, then it is considered to be part of the fiber arts world. So it's like the first thing you see is like this is some kind of fiber arts, this is fiber related. It is fiber art. It should be categorized in that way. And then finally, we're almost at the end. Installation art. Installation art and fiber has come quite a long way since the 60s, and hanging up a bunch of like bed sheets and stuff and projecting on them. which I consider projection, you know, low-key fiber arts. If it's on a screen and the screen is fabric. Yeah. So the one on the right is one of the artists that I was first majorly inspired by, Ernesto Neto. He's a Brazilian artist. He creates these large-scale immersive crochet environments. We recently had one in Houston. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see, but you can climb into his art. You can walk through that, and I've read that he embeds like rosemary and other smells into it, so it's also a smelling experience. And he'll also hang bells and other things that make noise, so it's also a listening experience. Very fascinating art. And then the one on the left is from the 2019 Venice Biennale. This is an Icelandic artist who used a lot of synthetic hair, which is fiber, and created this disgusting rainbow vomit fur room that was incredibly popular and won multiple awards at the Venice Biennale. And it was the most popular exhibition of 2019, and every influencer went in there and took a picture with it. And people started wearing clothes to match it. So it's very fascinating. I mean, currently fiber is being used in all sorts of exciting ways. And when I look at pictures of these installations, it just makes me want to see them in real life and to get to experience and to be part of it, to see how they made it and what the materials were, how it affects the environment that it's in, and how it affects me being in the environment with it. So I do find that installation art is what's triggering my happy brain more and more, and that fiber art is leading installation art currently. And most of the installations I see are fiber-based. It's really exciting. Let's keep in touch. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. In the past, I've heard that people have gotten interested from this and started picking up some new tools, which I'm sure you all need, and some new materials, and started learning some new techniques, and were inspired to either incorporate something new into what you're already doing or pick up a whole new hobby, which we all need, and have been inspired. And if you were inspired and you end up making something new, I would love to see it. If you'd like to keep in touch. I'd love to keep this conversation about how to talk about fiber arts evolving. I'd love to learn more terms, or if you have some artists that I should include in this, I'd love to know about them. Or a technique or anything that wasn't mentioned, I'd love to hear about it. We will be having the Haunted Hearse open for you outside to come try out after the reception. Give us maybe about like 15 minutes to run some tech, make sure it's ready for you. But do take a peek. Do take a peek. It's really pretty at night. It will be open all day tomorrow, but seeing it at night is the most special time. Any questions? Was it okay?